I'm so delighted to be here. It actually took me the entire night to come to Vienna because apparently even plane can have a flat tire. But I would not have missed this event for anything in the world.
It's a hard we have an extremely long arm to get down.
I enjoyed it. I'm going to repeat that again. Actually, I'm going to say I am even more excited to be here because it's very clear that you really are the housekeeper and willing to do anything for this event. And it's very exciting to see that. We are very excited to be here because at the beginning, from the very beginning of the International Federation of Finance Museum, we have actually seen the birth or the plans for this museum. So we consider the IFFM like the adoptive parents of this museum, maybe the cousins, in my case the Italian cousin of the FLiP. And finally we get to see this really splendid museum, and I have to say it's even better than the slides that they were shown. And I'm very excited to be here today because it takes visionary leaders to think about financial education. And the reason why it takes visionary leaders is because financial education is for the future and it is for the long term. And very few people or very few institutions have this type of long term. And so that's why it's so exciting to see a private institution who actually has a long-term view, who actually think about the young. And it's with great pride that I say that, Erste Bank has visionary leaders, as our also Italian counterpart. And it's very important as well to be here today. The other institution that we care very much about are the central banks. And the reason is because, of course, the central bank is probably one of the most important institutions when it comes to personal finance. And it's also the institution that is mostly recognized as expert in this topic. So when FLiP asked us, who should we invite for this conference, we of course joke that he should invite the governor of the Central Bank of Austria, and we didn't know it was so powerful to actually invite him and for the governor to come. So we are very, very excited today to have actually both the CEO and the governor of the central bank here. At the IFFM, the GFLEC is kind of the mind and the heart of the institution. We are not a museum, we are a research center, and so what we provide is the rationale, the data, why we need to think about financial education. Why financial education, I would say, is an urgent issue. And we need more visionary leaders around the world to really address these important issues. I agree with the governor that it's perhaps less urgent in Austria because, as I will show you again, confirming some of his findings, in Austria, the level of financial literacy is potentially better than in some of the other countries, but I don't think you should let or leave the guards because even in Austria, of course, there are important vulnerable groups, and I think there is an important role for this museum as well. So as a lot of the horizon, when we think of financial education, that's why financial education has taken so long in a sense to catch up, and why we needed the financial crisis, never waste a financial crisis. At least after that we had a very strong incentive to do financial education because ignorance has high cost, and we have seen it with our eyes. I'm actually turning to data now, and I wanted to show you the evidence from 3 relatively recent surveys. One is around the world, so I'm going to take you in a global tour first. Then we are going to come to Europe, and then I'm going to focus on a very, very important topic that at GFLEC we are very passionate about, which are the young, and in particular high school students. So if we actually have at least more than half of the populations that knows three very basic concepts. And as you can see also, it's not the case that all of the developed economies, for example, are financially literate. And because the governor is here, I have to say that, like in his slide, one of the topics, no, we have to come back. Like the topic, what is it that people know the most? Actually, inflation is one of the topics where people do relatively well around the world. The blue are the major economies. These are actually the G7 countries. The major emerging are the BRICS. And the rest of the world are literally the 143 countries. But one of the topics that actually people know the least, countries. And so there are many advanced countries which has a very low proportion of people which really know the ABC of finance. Normally we see an inverse U-shape, and this is true for the G7 countries. Actually, you have to keep the other slide back. Can you? BRICS country is the young actually are the one which has a higher level of financial knowledge, kind of indicating that perhaps there are opportunities, or the young people in this BRICS economy are now perhaps better able or more interested in this financial literacy, but of course the young in the advanced economy and the young. So Sweden does many good things, and it also is a country which, even in the level of financial literacy, distinguishes itself. But as you see, these are countries with very similar financial markets, yet their financial literacy is very different. This actually shows to us that it's not that you acquire financial literacy because you are born in an advanced economy, that you become financial literate by just breathing the air around you. It takes actually a bit more effort. What the Swedish do, whatever it is, they seem to be doing it relatively well. I'm going to continue. And actually look a little bit closer now to 10 countries in Western Europe. And this is actually even a more recent data that we were able to collect last year. A good proportion of correct answer. But as soon as you combine the questions and you see, and you look at how many people precipitously, it's a word I cannot say, and as I'm going to show you in a moment, go to the next slide. We are in Austria, otherwise I wouldn't show these slides, of course. But actually, while Austria does really, I have to say there is work to do even in Austria. There is work to do even in FLiP, and I think we have to really think very much about risk and how to make people appreciate and understand risk. And as you can see, actually, countries like France, Portugal, and Italy rank at the bottom here. In Italy, for example, only 40% of the population can answer three very basic questions. I'm going to continue. Here as well, I want to show you again this distribution across age, because of course the young start with a very low level of financial literacy, but when you look across the age spectrum, this understanding of risk doesn't really change or doesn't improve much with age. So there is not as there to be good citizens, and in order to be able to use well the skills. And in fact, there is a wonderful description of what PISA measure, whether people can continue to learn, whether people are able to participate to society, whether people are able to use the knowledge they have. In 2012, financial literacy was added to this list of topics. And the topics were basically knowledge of math, reading, and science, the very basic knowledge. But now, the OECD said, already starting in 2012, we also need financial literacy. This is also an essential skill that the young people need in order to participate to society. In 2012, 18 countries participated, but we already have a new wave in 2015. It was released at the OECD last spring, and I want to show you the evidence about knowledge of financial literacy among these young. And so the next slide will actually speaks about how do countries rank, or how do countries do when it comes to financial literacy of their own young people. Any things like managing a bank account, and we can continue further. So we can go a little fast. And here actually I want to tell you about something that's very important and that the OECD data shows very strongly, and we have even organized a conference about that. What is the most important predictor of financial literacy? The most important predictor is socioeconomic background. Why is that? Because if we don't have it in the school, people are going to learn from people around them, and they are going to learn from their parents or their background. And this is in a sense a little unfortunate, because this might be the reason why we start unequal even when it comes to financial literacy. And this is potentially another reason why we need to be visionary about financial literacy, why we need to provide access to the young about financial literacy, because the people around them might be like them, because their parents might not be the best teachers, and because we really need to reach everyone. And I'm going to kind of show, how, in a sense, financial literacy is important. In July, the Minister of Economy and Finance appointed me to chair the Financial Education Committee in Italy, which is in charge of designing the national strategy for financial literacy. And I have to say, there are a reason to be optimistic. For me, this is an opportunity to do financial literacy in my own countries. You have to be optimistic. Sometimes dreams do come true. And I want to end with the statement that was in our bag, which is, as Nelson Mandela said, education is the most important weapon that you can use to change the world. I really hope he meant financial education.